Hi everyone. I'm sorry that this had some problems before with the audio, so I'm re-recording this for those of you who dropped out. Next time, just put in the chat that you can't hear what I'm saying, and then I will be able to troubleshoot. So I will be putting this up today. This is Wednesday. Please let me know if you have any questions as you've watched it, and let's get started. So, before we get into the part on culture and socialization, I wanted to talk about parts 2, 3, and 4 of the class and kind of give an overview of what's going on and what to expect. So for part 2, we are looking at culture, part 3 is inequality, and part 4 is systems. Now, when we say culture, one of the things I want you to think about as we go through the next 3 weeks is how do social facts shape our experience in the world, and how does it create our reality? So, for example, how does social facts are the ways that we believe, think, feel that are external to us, but also constrain our actions and ideas. So, how does society affect the way we perceive the world around us? And what we'll be looking at are 4 topics. This week is on social construction and socialization. Then we'll be looking at power and personal identities, religion, and politics. So, how do these um, issue aspects of culture shape the way we perceive reality and the world around us? Then we'll go into inequality, where we look at how our society stratified, what leads to and solves inequality. And we'll be looking at 3 topics specifically: crime, economics, and education. Then we will be looking at systems. We'll define what a social system is, why it's important, how it affects our lives, and how do we notice it. And we'll be looking at nations, healthcare, and science. Now, this does not mean that you can only see religion as a cultural aspect or politics as a cultural aspect and not in how they affect inequality or how they operate as systems. Culture, inequality, and systems are all operating at the same time. So we could actually switch a lot of these topics into other areas. So we could look at education, economics, and healthcare as constructing our reality. We could look at the inequality perpetuated or solved by religion, power, and nations. And we could look at the social systems of politics, science, and crime. We could switch it up even more, right? We could look at the systems of education, economics, and religion, the inequality perpetuated or solved by healthcare, power, and politics. Or we could look at the culture that shapes our reality by science, nations, and crime. So as we go through each of these, you'll notice that there are elements bleeding in from other areas. Specifically, as we look at economics, you'll see parts of how this has created our reality. As we look at healthcare and science, how it influences inequality, and so on. So also I wanted to note that each of these parts are going to be reflected in your investigating sociology assignments. So investigating sociology assignment number 2 is going to be on norms and demonstrating social control. Sociology assignment number 3 is on looking at how inequality exists in foreign films. Assignment number 4 is mapping out systems of social problems. So you'll see reflected in each of the assignments 2, 3, and 4 material from part 2, 3, and 4. Okay. So let's get into culture versus society. A culture is simply shared beliefs, values, and practices that participants within that culture must learn. A society is a group of people who share that culture and generally have a geographic community. However, with the advent of the internet, that has often spread where you can kind of see societies dispersed throughout the world, but that congregate in internet spaces, whether that's chat rooms, whether that's gaming clubs, whatever that might be. But society talks about the group of people who share the culture, whereas the culture itself is the beliefs, values, and practices that people learn. So here is an example of a map of the United States and where different cultures spring up by looking at the shared language of each of these culture regarding the term or how people talk about carbonated beverages. So we see in the Northeast, in the South, and at the tip of Florida, when people talk about carbonated beverage, they say it's soda. Whereas in the upper North areas, it's pop. And here in the South, in the southern states, they say Coke. And I am not sure where on the map you see soft drink. Maybe that's here in Ohio. But there are some areas where people will say soft drink instead of any of these. Um, I'm a soda guy. I grew up in Vegas, so that kind of makes sense for me. And it's interesting to note, where do you see people use these words? So this is showing you how culture is spread out differently throughout the United States, and each of these areas have distinct cultures. So kind of as a rehash, culture has social norms. These norms can be formal and informal. By formal norms, we mean things like laws and regulations, workplace policies. Informal norms are things like greetings, um, don't make out on a bus, how to say hello, how to say goodbye, um, just their everyday habits that we have that we have been influenced by society. Um, and cultures have symbols and language as ways of getting across the different beliefs and norms. So, for example, we have emojis today. Also, we'll go into this in the next section on social construction, but even our language is a symbol. Our actions are all simple. The clothes we wear are simple. So everything has a meaning behind it. So let's get into that. How is our world constructed? How is society influencing our reality? So let's get started. Sean, I was going to text you, but could I do a chicken salad in a tomato wrap? Uh-huh. And I asked for uh, tomatoes and lettuce inside. I texted it to you. Thank you. When humans come together, we interact with each other, but it would be confusing to interact with each other if there wasn't any meaning behind our actions. For example, if there was no meaning behind a handshake, right? If a handshake didn't mean a greeting and instead it was literally just grasping someone's hand, that wouldn't make sense for why I would go around grasping people's hands. They would look at me weird, say, "Why are you touching me? Please stop." However, in the West, we see grasping hands and shaking that hand as a that has a meaning for greeting. That's saying hello or respect of some kind. And so the action of shaking hands is a sign of greeting and respect. And so when humans come together, we start repeating actions that have meaning behind them to help us coordinate our lived experiences. Otherwise, it would be very confusing if when I shook hands as a form of greeting, whereas someone else, when they shook hands, it was the beginning of a battle, right? You shook hands and then you started killing each other. So that would be a really very awkward situation. If I was saying hello, she was saying I'm about to kill you. So as we repeatedly interact with each other, we start creating shared meanings in the signs and symbols that we use. So these signs and symbols are seen through our language and our actions. When I say hello, everyone in this class understands that is a greeting, not a call to war, and so that we are all on the same page when I say hello. That's what signs do for humans. As we continue to do this, they become habitual. So I no longer think about, okay, I'm walking into this business meeting. I need to show them that I respect them and I need to greet them. How should I do that? Maybe I should shake their hands, right? I don't have to think about that anymore. It just becomes habit. And this is part of the habitualization of our social interactions. And then beyond that, these norms become institutionalized in formal and informal norms of, workplaces, families, schools, um, and other aspects of our culture. So when you are with your family, or maybe you're at school, your teacher or your parent might say, shake their hand, or say hello, or open the door for me. Things like that that teach you what the meaning is and what the signs are for going through life. So here's an example of how healthcare is socially constructed. Throughout the world, there are different um, ideas of what it means to be sick. In some places, sickness is frowned upon and you hide whether or not you feel well. In other places, it is seen as you have to be sick in the right way, right? Do you have to push through it and show that, no, even though I don't feel well, I'm going to do the best I can? Or should you act really sick and stay home and cough and moan or whatever? If you don't cough and moan, will you be taken seriously or will they dismiss you? So there are a lot of meanings around how we perform sickness and how we show whether or not we are sick. There's also symbols of health. Here we have a symbol of healthcare and of medicine. There's also, we interpret someone wearing, sweatpants and they haven't shaved or they haven't done their hair or makeup. We see that as, oh, they must not be feeling well. So there's those kind of symbols as well. And then these get repeated over and over. So we have the repeated language that doctors use. We have the clothes that they wear that showcase whether or not they're doctors. And these are institutionalized within the hospital and the clinic. And social construction happens in so many places. For example, the norms of adulthood. We have a whole host of laws, right? That you can drive at 16, that you can vote at 18, and then you can drink alcohol at 21. There's really not much difference between a 15 and a 16-year-old for why a 16-year-old can drive and is somehow more adult or more mature, or why a 17-year-old is more politically astute and can or an 18-year-old is more politically astute than a 17-year-old and why that makes them an adult. These are arbitrary ideas for how to designate adulthood that society in the West has created for our advancement in society. Gender as well. We have meanings behind the clothes that we wear. Are you wearing a suit to show that you are more masculine, or are you wearing a female suit? But that's still feminized in some way. What happens if a woman just wears a male suit? How do people react to that, right? So gender comes with it a whole host of meanings, the kinds of clothes we wear, the makeup or the skincare routines we do, the hair, our actions. I think one of the students already put up a video for the week on the discussion activity board about how being more masculine reflects different kinds of sexualities. Families are constructed. Whether or not you are in the West, we have this idea of a nuclear family where you have parents and children and you stay within a home. Whereas in many indigenous communities and non-Western communities, it is seen as more tribal, that your family is your tribe or are the people that you live with, that they also have parenting responsibilities beyond just the biological parents. And laws are social constructs. I have here a graphic about designating borders, right? Um, why does, putting a line down and saying this is my land, not your land anymore, that's not reality in the sense of that's not something that nature provided, it's something that humans created. So once society has constructed our reality, we need to teach new people how to accept that and how to work in society, and that's called socialization. So here are some terms. Socialization is the ways that people come to understand societal norms and expectations. We've already learned what social norms are. Agents of socialization are those people and institutions or groups that teach people how to adopt social norms and move through society. So when your parents tell you, open the door for other people because it's a nice thing to do, your parents are acting as agents of socialization, helping you come to understand the norm of respect by opening doors. And then social control are the informal and formal regulations of norms. So formal regulation of norms would be like policing laws. Informal regulation of norms would be something like if you're making out on the bus and that's impolite, people will look at you weird or ask you to stop. You could also see formal norms in the workplace. When you do something incorrect, they might ask you to redo it. They might, or if you've broken policy, they might put you on temporary leave or fire you, right? Those are formal regulations of social norms. But this is how socialization happens. And so I wanted to show you an example of these norms by watching a clip from Legally Blonde. This might date me a little bit. This is from 2001. So as we watch, think of the social norms. Who is trying to teach the norms? What is the social control being used? And who is being socialized?
The law is reason free from passion. Does anyone know who spoke those immortal words? Yeah.
Aristotle.
Are you sure?
Yes?
Would you be willing to stake your life on it?
I think so.
What about his life?
I don't know.
Well, I recommend knowing before speaking. The law leaves much room for interpretation, but very little for self-doubt. And you were right. It was Aristotle. Now, I assume all of you have read pages 1 through 48 and are now well-versed in subject matter jurisdiction. Who can tell us about Gordon versus Steele? Let's call on someone from the hot zone. Elle Woods.
Oh, actually, I wasn't aware that we had an assignment.
Oh. Vivian Kensington, do you think it's acceptable that Ms. Woods is not prepared?
No. I don't.
Would you support my decision to ask her to leave class and to return only when she is prepared?
Absolutely.
All right, so what we see here is some of the social norms you might have caught up on. Everyone is quiet while the teacher is talking. So that is a social norm. They've probably already been socialized into that because she did not need to, put any social control on those people. Um, when she asked a question, people raised their hand before they answered. The gentleman said he answered with Aristotle, and she gave positive feedback, so positive social control by calling on him and allowing him to talk. A social norm that the teacher tried to enforce in her class was being sure of your answer, and so she did this by making asking him if he'd be willing to stake his or someone else's life on that answer. There's a social norm of reading before class and being prepared, which students were the agents of socialization, as Miss Kensington said that she would support the student being kicked out of class, as well as the teacher. And the fact that no one stood up and was against this also affirmed that this was an action that should be taken. And everyone was socialized here by watching this effect of social control. This is one of the reasons, if we go back to last week with crime, when Durkheim said that crime was necessary to reinforce social norms, here we see that Elle Woods, by coming to class unprepared and kind of dressing in a way that wasn't seen as, or acting in a way that wasn't seen as very lawyery, and being kicked out of class, everyone else in the room learned that the norm is do not do that, right? They learned that you should be prepared. They learned that you should dress the part. They learned that you should act more restrained. Otherwise, you are not fitting in. So it reinforced those norms of society while she was committing that crime and the social control was enforced. So let's watch another. This is an example of comedy in social norms, and this is a great way of thinking about how to do your discussion or your activity board for the week.
See, I'm nervous because I just had babies. 2 little boys, David and Jonathan. Thank you, babies. Thank y'all. Yeah. And I got to tell y'all, when I went to the doctors, right? And I get there, they got these soft candles burning. Soft music. I said, bitch, that's why I'm here. Blow that shit out. That's why I'm in this motherfucker now. So jokingly, I said to my fiance when they walked out the room, I said, Sid, what if they come back and tell us we having twins? And we started laughing. That bitch came back in there. And you know how you up in the stirrups when you're getting your checkup? Can you scoot down a little bit, please? Bitch, can you scoot up some shit? I can't scoot down. I'm a big gal. I'm gonna fall the fuck off of this table now. That's enough scooting. How much scooting do you want a bitch to do? So I went up on the table, and she put the little gel, on my stomach to check to see, the baby. And she said, oh my God. Oh my God. Y'all know she was white. That's how y'all talk. Oh my God. Oh my God. I said, bitch, what is wrong? She said, I can't find a heartbeat. I said, I'm a big gal, bitch. Give me some more gel. Them babies might be in my fucking back. Stop playing. So she put all the gel shit on my stomach. Then she says, oh my God. Oh my God. You know, a black nurse would have been like, bitch, do you see this shit? It's 2 motherfuckers in there, bitch. Ooh. So, all the doctors came to me and said, well, Monique, because you're having multiples, you won't go to 40 weeks in your pregnancy. We're going to have to take the babies at 35 weeks. I'm cool with that. Okay. Now, we scheduled my C-section automatically because I don't believe in that kind of pain, baby. Pee should only come out. That's the only thing. And dick should go in, and that's 2 things. So I'm like, cool. We scheduled my C-section. At 28 weeks, my babies decided we're not going to wait to 35 weeks. We're ready to come out of here now. So I get up, go to the bathroom, and when I'm going to open the door, my water breaks. Now, I ain't had a kid in 15 years, so I couldn't remember if that was my water breaking or if a bitch was peeing on herself. Because y'all know we'll pee on ourselves, bitch, like, oh, bitch, I'm peeing, bitch. Oh, bitch, I'm peeing, bitch. Stand in front of me, bitch, I'm peeing. Yes, baby. So I say, Sid, my water done broke. He say, nah, bitch, you probably peeing. I can't cut it off. This shit ain't pee. So they rush me to the hospital. Everybody's panicking. They get me up on the table. They shoot me up with steroids because they want me to hold on to these babies. Because they said, Monique, they're not fully developed. We've got to keep these babies inside. So for a whole week, I get to 29 weeks. They come back and they say, Monique, we've got to take them. Infection is setting in, and we can't break your fever. Now, I believe in that thing we call God, so I said, I submit. Whatever you're going to do, you're going to do. Ain't shit I can do about this at this point. So they came on in. Now, as we're going to the operating room, I start praying. I said, hey, God, it's me. What's going to happen. But I've been watching the TLC channel. I see some shit that can go wrong. Don't be tripping, God, now. Don't give my babies 3 eyes. I promise you I won't look at them. I will be looking over here. They will be laying right there. How y'all doing? Fuck that. So at 10:15, they start the surgery. 10:27 p.m., here comes David. He's 2 pounds. 10:30 p.m., here comes Jonathan. He's 3 pounds. Now, I can't fully turn my head over because I'm a little nervous what my baby's going to look like. So I say, Sid, what they look like, nigga? He said, bitch, if you don't turn your crazy ass over here and look at these motherfuckers, ain't nothing wrong with their ass. They trying to run out of here. They trying to run away from your crazy ass.
Okay, so there were a number of norms that she both enforced or demonstrated in her routine, but also in her description of the story. So think of, maybe pause, try to think of them on your own, but some of them that I wrote down were the soft music and the candles in the medical office. She was saying that's a romantic night. That shouldn't be a medical office, right? Why are there soft candles or music and candles? She talks about when the doctor asks her to move forward, usually people accept that and they also move forward. And she's saying, So she's breaking the norm by resisting. She talks about the norms of how white doctors versus black doctors would respond in different cases. She describes the breaking of the norm to not pee on yourself, and the audience laughs, affirming that that is not normal. She also says, I believe in a thing called God, and the audience affirms that norm by applauding and cheering. So these are different norms that even in comedy, that's a big part of comedy, is showing when we break norms or when we enforce norms or things like that, and how we, the disruption of those norms. And so hopefully this was helpful of identifying social control, socialization, construction of reality. If you have any questions, let me know. And I look forward to your posts this week to see how this is going. And you'll be using this week specifically for your investigating sociology assignment number 2. So make sure you're looking at that assignment as you go through this week. Otherwise, have a great week, and we will talk to you soon.